Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us here on the Rochester Press Box. I'm Bill Pucko, joined by my guys, Tariq, Spence. How you doing?
Doing great, even better than I see how much baseball tickets cost. Have you seen some of these cheap tickets? Woo!
That'll come up later, I assume?
Maybe.
Now, this one puzzled us, Pat.
All right, well, NCAA tournament started. This team is not playing in the NCAA tournament. I don't know if they ever made the tournament. You guys, the sports experts you are not familiar with the University of South Florida Bulls men's basketball team? Come on.
I knew I'd seen it.
Come on, USF.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's
USF.
right. From the NIT.
So, yeah, they might be playing. Every college, I have like 15 college basketball jerseys. None of them made the tournament this year. I don't know how the heck that happened. So this was my most fun one. I decided to put it on.
Very good. Hey, let's talk Jim Boeheim. Sort of when we went over it, before we started talking about the show, I'm guessing that you're not sad to see him go.
Well, let's just say I love a good implosion. Don't you just love a good, terrible exit? Listen, there's two ways to leave anything, whether it's a job, a relationship, doesn't even matter. You can either voluntarily walk out, decide, okay, this is it, or it can go ugly. This one went ugly, and ugly fast, because I remember not too long ago, he was walking away from the game and then came back to the game, and then that didn't go so well in the last few years, even though he did get the record and coach his kids. So I will say this, you look at the record, you look at the history, basketball aside, he's achieved what he's achieved. Olympics, he's achieved what he's achieved. The way this thing ended was so ugly and uncomfortable in a way that if you look back at Boeheim's history and the reporters that have followed him understand, this was like maybe a long time coming and a culmination of everything that's happened in his career.
I know, it isn't like Adrian Autry was in the hallway and they approached him right after the game and said, hey, would you mind coaching next year?
But, I mean, look at what Boeheim did to the program and staying on as long as he did. Like, look, man, he should have been gone 10 years ago. And I know that's a harsh thing to say for what Boeheim's done for Syracuse. And I even understand the school letting him stay around to coach his kids. I get that. It's a wonderful story. You can sell tickets that way. As soon as that was over, he should have voluntarily walked away from that program because, look, the bottom line is this. If you are a college basketball fan, you know two things. Jim Boeheim is a really good X's and O's basketball coach. He can't recruit. And everybody that was able to recruit for him that thought they were going to get that job eventually, Mike Hopkins being one of them going out to Washington, left for greener pastures. Think about the people that have gone through that program that could have taken it over and brought it on, continued the legacy that Boeheim started. In staying as long as he did, he destroyed the legacy that he himself built at Syracuse.
I'm a little confused though, because he stayed there. So it's not like it was so sort of he was being held hostage or he couldn't go anywhere. You dedicated your whole career to Syracuse. To leave that way is terrible. There's a Coach K way to do it, and there's a Syracuse way to do it. And so the way it sort of folded out, and if you think about it right now, how many people filled out a bracket, didn't even know Coach K isn't coaching anymore because all they do is fill out brackets for pools and win those pools when people watch college basketball more than they do.
Well, and Duke still won the
ACC.
ACC. Yes, exactly. Look, it comes down to this, and I think this is the eerie part of the whole conversation. You guys know, being college basketball fans as long as you have, all of the major old school coaches, right? Your Tarkanians, your Bobby Knights, your Caliparis, your Patinos, your Boeheims. It never ends well. These men have unchecked power until something so bad happens, they don't. And Boeheim has weathered several controversies at Syracuse. You would have thought he was going to be the guy that would wave his hand and say goodbye and thank you for everything. But even Boeheim had to leave in a way that he didn't want to leave. So the way that they've coached, and I mean, you can make the argument, had been tyrants over programs for years, never ends with a happy story.
It's like one of the fallacies, like one of those, like the check is in the mail. When you hear somebody says, I'll be the first to know when it's time, they're generally the last to know.
This is very true. And if Boeheim still wants to coach, there would be a number of programs that would love to give him a chance to revitalize their program. But you don't got another chance. There's plenty of different coaches out there that have these checkered histories that people take a gamble on.
Jim's one of those.
Oh, well, that's up to Jim. I guess you have to ask Jim for that answer.
He is just so identified with that university. It's inconceivable to me that he would do anything else.
Well, here's the other thing that it was really bothering me. I mean, Autry walks into a program that is not what it was after all of this public controversy. Oh, by the way, a lot of the guys that were going to commit to Syracuse are walking away because they don't know anything about this coach that's walking in. And Boeheim said earlier this week he will still have a role within Syracuse University, I'm assuming the athletics program. So you still have the ghost of the guy that you have to replace presiding over you. And if there's one thing we know about Jim Boeheim, he does not sit on his hands and keep his mouth shut when he thinks something is wrong.
You may call Boeheim a legend or you may not call him, but you don't want to follow a legend after they leave.
Well, I was going to ask, is Autry the guy? Can he put this back together?
And it's not his fault. He's not, and it's not his fault. Here's what I think, if you want my honest opinion. I think Jerry McNamara is the guy, and they knew putting him in that chair right away would be death for him. I think that Autry is keeping that seat warm for McNamara, and it makes the perfect sense.
Smart.
McNamara staying. Right?
Smart move. You don't want to follow the legend. You want the guy that follows the legend.
Mm-hmm.
This is the Rochester Press Box. We're talking Buffalo Bills and free agency next.
Mike O'Brien, your getaway guy. If you like to travel like I do, you'll love my travel books. Buy one, get one free right now. Email me, let me know what you need. MikeTheGetawayGuy@gmail.com. I'll even sign it. MikeTheGetawayGuy@gmail.com.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us on the Rochester Press Box. Our Bill segment is brought to you by Ralph Honda. For 3 generations celebrating 50 years of New York's first and oldest Honda dealer. Visit Ralph Honda today. Find out how we do Honda right at RalphHonda.com. So we've entered free agency and the Bills right off the bat. Tremaine Edmunds, it's nice to, you knew it was going to happen. We didn't have to wait for it. Mm-hmm. How do they stand?
I'm okay with what's going on with Buffalo. It's nothing, oh my God. It's nothing that we didn't see coming. I said at the end of last year, and I'll say it again, I am fine running it back with what the Bills had. Do you think a team that didn't tender a franchise offer to Tremaine Edmunds doesn't have a plan for what they're doing moving forward? You don't think that the front office knew that this was going to happen? They're not blindsided by this.
A man that looks like this man, who wore a different jersey last week, says he was worried about Tremaine Edmunds. What happens in between last week and this week? He's not worried anymore. No. Or you wanted Tremaine Edmunds back last week. Did you not say that?
I said I would like to have him back. I also said I didn't think it was going to happen. That being said, have Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott and the rest of this front office not done enough in the last 6-7 years to earn the benefit of the doubt? I am willing to give them the benefit of the doubt with what they've been able to do with this roster.
Let me play devil's advocate. Sure. Is that it was easy for them because of the salary cap situation with Josh Allen on his rookie deal to have all these things. And they did a nice job. There's no denying that. Mm-hmm. But it was easier, and now it gets really tough.
I mean, yeah, that's the challenge of running any NFL franchise. That being said, I still think that people underestimate how much talent is on this Bills roster when healthy. And all of last season, they were never all healthy at the same time. If Sean McDermott is good at one thing, it is coaching up defensive talent and getting more out of them than they should. Shaq Lawson got a massive contract, failed when he left. Jordan Phillips got a massive contract, failed when he left. So much so that they came back on like veteran minimum deals. I'm going to be okay. It is going to be okay.
I mean, Milano is good news for them. I'd like to see him back in the Bills. But the other thing you have to notice is what everybody else is doing in that division. Minus the Patriots, you got to pay attention to what the Dolphins are doing. Very close last year. Maybe they can put that together. I don't know about the quarterbacks. And the Jets, who seem to be in this hostage negotiations right now with Aaron Rodgers, because I have no idea what's going on. As we're taping this now, he hasn't signed. Will he sign before this tapes or before this airs? Probably.
And it's safe to assume that the Jets and the Dolphins are going to get better and the Bills are going to come back a little bit. So you got a tight race, I think, in the division.
Can I ask you a question? Why is it safe to assume that? Come back with me, gentlemen. Come back with me to the AFC West arms race of 2022, because it was exactly a year ago that we were sitting here talking about, oh man, the Chiefs got to watch their back, right? The Broncos have gotten so much better. The Raiders have gotten so much better. The Chargers are right on the cusp of doing things.
But the Jets and Miami split with Buffalo last year. They weren't that far behind.
The Jets and Miami split with a Buffalo team that could not stay healthy. A Buffalo team that won the division with 3 games left in the
Miami
season.
Was and had most of the season without their quarterback.
And for Miami and the Jets, the same sort of thing. They did not have their quarterback. Mm-hmm. I don't understand what's going on with those situations as of right now.
Sure.
We don't know what the news will be.
Better. They're gonna be better.
I think they are, and I think this should be a concern for Buffalo.
What are you basing that on? You're basing it on strict talent? Because if you're basing it on strict talent, Buffalo still has the most talented roster in that division.
And the Jets have a great young defense that's rising.
That coach in New York is a disaster. And I know we're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers, so maybe we'll talk about it there.
Oh, my gosh.
So where do the Bills go from here, do you think, Tariq?
I don't know. I mean, apparently they're fine. I mean, they don't need to draft anybody. They don't need to sign anybody.
They've got some space. They've reworked some contracts, so they actually have some flexibility.
This is smart. I think the fact that they did rework those contracts, I think it was Allen and was it Miller?
Von Miller and Josh Allen.
Gives them some flexibility to sign a couple, maybe a couple of different things that go further down the line. I think it makes it a little bit smarter. Their draft, I'm not worried about them in their draft. I think they will draft well and plug in those plug-and-play players. But it's going to be interesting to see on paper who gets better in that division. That's what's going to be interesting.
Here's what I need. Joe, Behind the scenes extraordinaire. When the Bills win the division next season and they do it with 3 games left in the season, make sure this is saved so you can play it back for both of them.
Just play last week when he wasn't concerned about Edmonds, that's all.
Our Buffalo Bills segment was brought to you by Ralph Honda. Like It or Not is next. Here's the Press Box Trivia question, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road.
Out in the middle of nowhere is this little hidden gem. The power of the page lives on this getaway. Mike O'Brien, your getaway guy. I'll take you here. Check out the Getaway Guy on Facebook.
Here's the Press Box Trivia answer, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here in the Rochester Press Box. Our Like It or Not segment is brought to you by Sport Clips, where the MVP experience is better than ever. Sport Clips, the pros in men's hair. No appointment needed. Stop by a Rochester location today. Like it or not, you got the NCAA tournament. We're up in full gear and stuff. You got some teams you like?
Yeah, oh no, I don't. That's what's so great about it. I like no teams. I like no teams. Everybody's going to watch Alabama just to see what's going to happen with Alabama, number one. Where all the controversy is going off the court. Watch out for Purdue. I really think Purdue is going to be interesting to watch going forward. I'm not one of those people that does the bracket, and I'll explain why in unfinished business, because I just feel as if any given moment you're going to have a team like Duffy's shirt that's going to come out of nowhere. I don't even know what team
they're called. USF.
USF. Well, you know, they may be in the tournament past the week, and it's great. I don't know. They could even be in the tournament. He wouldn't even know. That's just so great.
No, I Googled it.
He had to Google it.
I did have to Google it.
Moral dilemma. You're good at moral dilemmas.
Sure.
How do I deal with Nate Oats? You know, UB coach. He was a hero in Western New York. He did great things at that university. Now he's running the Alabama program. He's got the best team in the country,
yes.
I think, pretty unarguably.
Sure.
And he's got all this controversy.
I mean, controversy is the understatement of the century, right? I mean, look.
Can I root for this guy?
I mean, I'm having the same moral dilemma as we speak right now, because you're right. You want to see a guy that, I mean, look, that success that he had is astronomical in the amount of time that he's been able to do it, but the amount of things he's said poorly since this whole controversy involving a former player allegedly killing somebody, another player that's still on the team may have provided a weapon for that person. I mean, there's been 4 or 5 times where Nate Oats has had to step in and walk back comments he's made trying to hold his room together. Meanwhile, if you're watching the coverage right now, it's not even being mentioned really anymore.
And the other end of this too, let's be honest about sports. Let's be honest about sports. We like a villain. We like some teams we like to root for, and we like some teams we like to root against, depending on what they do.
He's provided that,
but that's part of the draw. That's part of the interesting thing about it. And the accused players played even better under the criticism in performing for Alabama.
The worst part for me was the pat down.
Yeah.
The introduction, and he comes out and his team, and oh my God, can you have a worse look?
Look, I'm with you. Like, it seems that, you know, they're very unaware of self with everything that's going on. Like, they're just there to play basketball, which I guess some fans want. But look, we don't want real life to intersect into our sports.
Absolutely not.
But when it does, you have to know how to handle it. And in my humble opinion, he is handling it quite poorly. And to come up with a reason to say, oh, there's worse stories out there that nobody's heard of before. I'm like, well, that's
how
not the
many
point.
people have died.
I was going to say, find me one, for God's sake.
Well, that's the problem is that they're out there. They haven't been exposed yet. This one is, and that's the one everyone is talking about.
Go again. Like it or not, the Chicago Bears are what they've done in the offseason.
I mean, it makes the draft interesting to see what Carolina's going to do now with these picks. And they gave up the house for it. Listen, we all knew Chicago needed a whole bunch of help. They were able to do that. Poles did a very good job. Now you get to make a decision on whether or not you want Fields as the quarterback or draft somebody else. That's going to be decided very quickly. I like the fact that they moved very fast. There wasn't any debate about this. And they're not sitting down like the Jets trying to find out whether or not they're going in the right direction or the wrong direction.
You know, and it's along with Nate Oats. I mean, it's not in the same category, obviously, but we had a local stake in this, which is kind of nice, I think, to see Ryan Poles do certainly a bold job in Chicago.
Well, man, look, bold is the word. Because, there are people celebrating him, but it's easy to win the offseason. And don't get me wrong, I'm cheering for Ryan Poles, right? I like him a lot. I liked him a lot better before he gave $50 million to Tremaine Edmonds, took him away from the Bills. However, No matter what else he does, he will live and die with what happens with Justin Fields, because moving on to that top overall spot signals they're not going to take a quarterback. This was his guy last year as a rookie quarterback that he took. Man, oh man, you better be sure. 2 years ago, you stuck with him. Mm-hmm. You better be sure that he is your guy, or else this will be a very quick GM experience.
That is a quick move, though, in the NFL. If you draft a guy, he's not the guy. They move off that guy very quickly instead of developing him. So that's one of those things in the NFL. He might get another chance if this draft goes well.
I found myself really interested in that division now, too. With the Lions coming up, the Bears rebuilding, and you can kind of push Green Bay, Minnesota to the side. I'll watch that division. I think it's fascinating.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like it or not, brought to you by Sport Clips. Unfinished Business is next.
The Press Box Stat of the Week is being brought to you by McArdle's Restaurant in Fairport. Come home to McArdle's.
Came now to Eichel. He floated one. Score!
Welcome back, and thanks for joining us here on the Rochester Press Box. Our Unfinished Business segment is brought to you by the Genesee Brewhouse, your beer destination since 2012. Visit the gift shop, enjoy tasting at our pilot brewery, and dine at the pub-style restaurant at the Genesee Brewhouse. Unfinished Business, Pat.
I don't know why anyone ever doubts me on anything. Because at this time last week on the press box, I sat here and told the Jets this was a terrible idea, putting all your eggs in the Aaron Rodgers basket. And as we tape this, he has yet to sign. Maybe he signed as you're watching this right now. But whether or not he did, it's still a terrible idea. And the proof is in what happened in the last 7 days. Aaron Rodgers waits at least till 3 days after free agency to hold both the Packers and the Jets hostage after having a meeting with all the brass there. And in the meantime, he gives the Jets a wish list of players he wants to play with, now including former teammates in Green Bay and Odell Beckham Jr. What do the Jets do? Instead of telling a guy who is on another roster at the moment, we'll figure out what we're going to do, they go out and give him exactly what he wants, minus Odell Beckham Jr. The New York Jets brass, this young, brash head coach who doesn't take any BS from anybody, is letting a player on another NFL roster be his GM and make his calls. And oh, by the way, the amount of former teammates that they are signing for Aaron Rodgers kind of neutralizes the young offensive weapons that the Jets had that they wanted to use with Rodgers at quarterback. What are you doing? Look, I hate the Jets. But you're embarrassing yourself, and you're doing it, putting all of the eggs in a basket of a 39-year-old quarterback who's on the decline. He'd be the third best quarterback in your division. What are you doing?
To echo his point, what are you doing? Why are you filling out a bracket? You know full well how much college basketball you've watched. Zero. None of it. I mean, literally, you don't even know the fact that I said earlier, Coach K is not even coaching Duke anymore. And who's going to win in the office pool? You know exactly who's going to win. The person that doesn't watch any college basketball, less than you. Here's what I do. I have lived bracket-free for the last 7 years. And it is unbelievably great. You want to know why? Because I don't care if the shot goes down or it doesn't go down. I'm not going to be upset. Not going to have a bracket buster. I might as well have AI fill out my brackets for me because I don't care. It's fun just to watch the excitement and the enthusiasm for a team that didn't think it was going to get this far to the Sweet 16 to actually get there. So here's what you do. Go out, fill your bracket. It's already busted by now. Fill a second one out so you can try and get that one busted again. And then next year, consider this. Don't fill out a bracket at all. Enjoy your food, enjoy your basketball, and enjoy the buzzer beaters because either way, you're winning.
My son Nathan has never been particularly loyal to a sports team save one. Syracuse University basketball. That loyalty produced a grudging acceptance of Jim Boeheim, who grew into open resentment as the program began to fade the last few years. He certainly wasn't alone. Jim Boeheim didn't make himself easy to like, which is a shame because there's a lot to like there, starting with his loyalty. Boeheim arrived in Syracuse in 1962, and he never left, and always said that there was no place he'd rather be. He represented his city and university well, and provided all of us who considered ourselves stuck in upstate New York for the winter a reason to live. It was a national championship, 5 Final Fours, 35 NCAA tournament appearances, and over 1,000 victories. So he's a little two-faced with the media. His disdain for local reporters contrasts with the charm that he turns on for the network guys. My lasting memory of Jim is being at a pre-tournament press conference years ago where someone simply asked if this wasn't the fun part of the job, to which he said, "This isn't fun, this is hard work." My thought was, here's a guy that ought to be enjoying his life more. But I was wrong. It's just his way. Prickly, nerdy, difficult, sure. But now it's over for Boeheim, and it's safe to love him again. It's okay to say thank you and to appreciate how much he brought to us under no obligation for the past 61 years. There won't ever be another like him. That is Unfinished Business, brought to you by the Genesee Brewhouse. Guys, I think history will be kind to Jim Boeheim.
I think one of the top 3 impressions is Jim Boeheim, done by Bill Pucko.
Yeah. Can I ask a question real quick? If I shouldn't do a bracket because I don't know anything about basketball, but the person who's going to win the bracket is someone who knows nothing about basketball, you just argued why I should fill out a bracket.
But you ain't going to win.
We'll see.
No, we'll see about that.
Hey, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week for the Rochester Press Box.